Hi, Tom and Neil. First of all, thanks for your time earlier in this week, taking me through your vision and your prototype and where you're at and where you've come from and where you plan on going. Put this video together as a bit of an accompaniment to the presentation. And I want to talk you through some of the phases of the product stewardship as I see it for Green Wallet. And we'll explain step by step through this video and the presentation. So your challenges as I see them, based on what how our conversation went, and some of the research I've been doing. So you need to find product market fit. And this is about understanding your users, their pain points. It is then about designing a scalable, minimum lovable product to match that. You need to find your early adopters. You need to design in those habitual virality points. So what I mean by this is designing the service in such a way that it gets users hooked, but it also makes them so proud of how they use it and what they use it for that they're referring it to friends. You need to settle on your revenue models. So there was some discussion about the revenue, but understanding really how to make your revenue models viable, in line with your valuables, and they're sustainable. Then, based on all of that, generating out your pirate metrics. So this is the R metrics. So awareness, acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, referral. So really, once we know about our users, we need to make sure that you're aware of what the metrics are to measure towards those, and setting those up and putting them in place. And then you need to find product manager fit and build out your product team. So whilst I'd like to think that I am the product manager for the future, I may not be the best product manager for the future of your business. So I will take you through this process of ensuring that you have got a product culture in place, that you've got a product team in place. So this is a challenge that you've got ahead. If you're becoming a product organization, you need to think about what a product organization culture looks like. Before I get into explaining too much more about the proposal, I just want to talk to you about product stewardship and what product management means. So look, the product manager sits between the customer, the business, and technology. So they're really the interface between those three worlds, and they need to represent each one of those from a strategic and from a tactical point of view. The role of the product manager is to set and communicate the product vision and strategy, facilitating ideation, prototyping and testing, planning a roadmap and prioritizing the features, writing the user stories, acceptance criteria, and the testing criteria, designing and managing the go-to-market releases, and defining and implementing the operating plan. So why a TELUS PM? Well, by having a third party like myself, you can have governance. So whilst you're developing a product when you don't have an in-house product team, having an objective interconnection between you, partners, and vendors is a great resource. So having me to sit outside of a technology team as opposed to being embedded into the technology team means that I'm able to give you an objective point of view as to what's going on. I'm accountable. So based on that, I am accountable. You can set the strategy, or we set the strategy together. We agree on what that is, and then I can deliver and operate to those SLAs, or to SLAs that you set or we set together. Network. So by being an external, I am able to bring that network to the table. So I have working relationships with a wide range of technical, research, product, and design resources, both from my career as a product manager and within consulting. And I have experience. So look, years of experience and insight and knowledge across a multiple range of different industries means that I've got a very different view of how things can be put together, which means we can pivot. If we get stuck with one particular problem, I can find a different way out of it. So now you know a little bit more about product management. I want to take you through our methodology for developing products and product culture within an organization. Our methodology is a combination of several frameworks. It's the Venn diagram of product management, which I explained on the slide before. Then we're talking about the I, we, it of human-centered leadership development. As we go through each layer of the I, we, it, the leadership and product and organizational development, we cover off the customer, the business, and the technology aspects. So it's a great and holistic method for developing products and services while also developing the right product culture within an organization as you scale. So step by step in this, I'll take you through. I'll explain in a little bit more detail in the slides after what each one of those steps entails for you and the products you're trying to develop. But within the I and the individuals, we want to develop customer empathy. We want to understand the stakeholder mindsets, and we want to go through a cycle of systems thinking to understand the technology aspects. Within the we layer, so the team, we want to enable design thinking, enabling agile for the covering off your business aspects, and enabling lean to make sure that we're measuring our technology. Within the implementation or the it layer, we're talking about customer and stakeholder strategy, so long term. Within the business layer, we're talking about business and commercial strategy. And within the technology layer, we're talking about the product, project, and program delivery. So now we've gone through the methodology at a high level. I'll take you through the presentation and the proposal for you and how that methodology can be applied to your product and to your organization as you scale. So step one is the I. This is the individuals within the organization and looking at it from a customer, business, and technology point of view. So we're going to apply a product-led approach to analyzing a current organization and readying for product development. So first of all, we're going to do customer empathy. So in this instance, it's customers which are your team, so your stakeholders and your team members. So I want to perform two-way interviews and come back out with a stakeholder mapping. And I'll take you through in more detail what that looks like later on. Then second of all, I want to assess and roadmap out what the mindsets are for you, your organization, your team, and potential team members you might bring on in the later stages. So this is a critical step to ensure that when you're scaling out and having to bring on team members as you iterate through your roadmap, you really understand who you might need and what mindsets they need to be in. And it really helps us with that recruitment process and making sure that we get the right team members. The third section is systems thinking to cover off the technology aspects. So this is really covering off the systems that underlie your products, your vision, your mission. So what I want to do in this stage is blueprint out your organizational systems as they are today. So this is understanding your customer, market, and digital ecosystems and putting that down on paper. Understanding your business and commercial structures and really getting all of that down on paper. Understanding your UX and UI, so your existing design and user testing process and spending time with your designer to understand his processes to go through. And then understanding your technology. So what capabilities, data flows, architectures, and dependencies do you have or do you have planned or do your teams have planned? So just to note, everything from this point onwards in the methodology and the steps is hypothetical. But at this point, I wanted to give them to you as a representation as to what we would go through. So step 2A is the first step into the we. So this is where we bring the team together to start working on a solution altogether. And the first step from the customer point of view is design thinking cycle. So we will follow a design thinking cycle, no doubt, but the steps within this might actually change. We might have multiple design thinking cycles, or we might just have one big design thinking cycles to get us to MLP. So within the design thinking cycle, you've got the empathize, define, ideate, prototyping, and test. And they're really just the step-by-steps of process you want to do. So within empathize, we're going to lay out our design challenge. And that really helps us dictate out what the questions that we want to answer from talking with users and observing users. Then we would go through some qual and quant. So we might do some observations, some qualitative surveys, some qualitative interviews, and any of the insights we're backing up, I'm trying to validate some of that with quantified data as well. So once we've got all of this insight, what we want to do is we want to define that down into a user journey, personas, empathy mapping, and a value chain. So this really gives us a holistic idea of what is the customer, the users, and the personas we're trying to tackle. What are their needs, their pain points that they have. Putting it down into a user journey, so what their user journey is today. Now, this is not the user journey from the business's point of view. This is literally from their point of view. So what user journey are they on when we might be interacting with them? And then looking at our value chain. So what value can we add to them along the journey in using this product, and how are we supporting them through our value chain and our services? At the back of this, we want to look for the opportunities and the risks, basically a SWOT analysis, and we're setting out our problem statements and our objectives. From there, we're going to ideation mode. So we bring the team back together, and we're coming up with at a bare minimum ideas for new user journeys, so end to end, and value and service propositions. So in this stage in ideate, the trick is to go diverge then converge pattern, so over and over depending on how many times, and coming up with great ideas and grand ideas, and then narrowing down to realistic ideas that we can pull off in a certain amount of time. Then we're going to prototyping. So prototyping is sort of twofold. It's not just necessarily prototypes like you've done already, but it's prototypes for synthesis for partners and stakeholders, to bring people on the journey and bring them on board. So as a product manager, I can't synthesize out all of the insights into a high fidelity prototype, but I can write out stories, I can make up stories, I can make up storyboarding that I can take a UI designer through or a tech team through. And then the other side of it is prototypes, so prototyping for users. Now, realistically, this is not a prototype like you've done. It could be slightly lower fidelity prototypes. We're using these for testing, not necessarily for a proof of concept. So the test phase is really the last step and the most critical. So this is where we go in a little bit more depth back with our users, and we go into contextual inquiry mode. So rather than us going and asking a user what they want, we're doing contextual inquiries. We're trying to validate some of our assumptions, and we're doing observations. So this is really finding ways to get into the environments that they're currently in. So in a digital world, this could include bringing in specialists to help us get into the digital world of the users in there. In the physical world, this could actually be going out to a shopping centre, for example. And then the other side of this is just regular qual and quant. So going back into the interview rooms and doing qualitative research, and then quantitative again, following up with really quantifying the outcomes and the insights that we've got. So that completes the design thinking cycle. The steps in the design thinking cycle may change depending on really what comes out of the first step. So step 2B, so still in the we section, bringing together the agile and lean. So this is really where the tires hit the tarmac sort of thing. So there's really 5 kind of key components to what a product manager is trying to coordinate through this, and this is not just me, this is the entire team, but bringing this structure together is the foundations. So doing team charter, setting up all of our operations, so CI/CD pipelines, DevOps and DevOps, so we can iterate through quite quickly as we come up with new versions of what we're building, test them, and then redo them. Making sure that we've got the right communication ceremonies and rituals, so making sure all stakeholders and the team members are all included, and making sure that everyone in the team has the right tools so they can get on and do the job. Then there's the backlog, so taking all of that lovely insight from the design thinking cycle and turning it into the user stories or the jobs to be done. Making sure that we've got a program or project established. So this is about managing our risks and managing our business, managing our numbers in the project, and that's really supporting and part of the business case. So making sure that you guys, as the entrepreneurs in this, are able to release funds as needed throughout the process. So tying that project and program plan into the business case, so you can request funds and release funds to the project team. So the other part of this section is the roadmap. So side by side with this, we want to make sure that we've got the product vision well defined and the concept canvases. So this is really, rather than saying we're going to build widget X, we want to talk about problem Y to solve. So, and we capture those in a concept canvas. And we put those down onto a 4-2-1 roadmap. So a 4-2-1 roadmap is for the next 4 quarters, the next 2 halves after that, and the whole year after that. And then how we make sure that we're on track with what our product vision is, we start to map out what some of the objectives and the objectives and key results, or OKRs, are for the team. And that will really help us define some of the SLAs, both for developing the product to MLP and then beyond. Then once we've got all of the establishment stuff done, we start to hit the sprints. So this is about sprints and deployments and testing and retrospectives, validating with users as we go, and pivoting as required. Then one of the most critical steps, slightly outside of the circle of this because it will take a lot longer, is getting your go-to-market ready, your PR and your marketing support for launch. So when we're satisfied that we've got an MLP, we want to make sure that we're ready to launch. So setting up and really collaborating in that marketing effort to get it out. Okay. So we're looking right into the crystal ball right now. This is the step 3 in the process. This is the operating it. So this is once we hit that MLP, we're going to operate and future-proof your product. So the way that I see a product operating model is there's 5 facets to a product operating model for a product manager. So that's really about owning and developing your roadmap, owning and developing your OKRs, your backlog, your business KPIs, and your user research. So there's really 3 steps to get to a point of having a product operating model established, and they are the customer and stakeholder strategy, the business and commercial strategy, and the product, project, and program delivery strategies. So these are strategies will apply once off to get you to an operating model, but also some steps in here to help you hand over and be able to scale your business into owning your own product management team. So the customer and stakeholder strategy is really about ensuring that you've got a customer support strategy for the long term. You've got stakeholder reporting for the long term, and partner and vendor SLAs are in place. For a business and commercial strategy, this is about having roadmap iterations planned and budgeted for, making sure that you've got product OKRs and KPIs that are aligned to those roadmap iterations. Then really ensuring that the product P&L is there and in place, and that you've got scenarios built in for different pivots that you may need to take and how to fund those. So then again, the last part in this is product, project, and program delivery strategy. So this is about establishing governance for the product and how to separate that out from the business. Ensuring that you've got your scoping for your recruiting and establishing a core team. So after you've got all of your lovely MLP in place, it would make a lot of sense to start to bring on a team. So making sure that you're scoping and recruiting those teams and having a strategy for doing that is part of this step. Then we want to set up mentorship and training. So making sure that if you've got a new team, you've got the mentors and the training in place to ensure that you're going to hit the ground running. And then really that's about, at this point, is about me stepping away and finding that product manager fit. So finding the person that can come in, take over from me and really own this. Either it's a chief product officer or a chief product manager, but really trying to find and recruit that person. And that's it in terms of the process.